Welcome back to my series for cybersecurity fundamentals, ways to best safeguard your physical devices with settings that you have access to through the OS to better safeguard your devices, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at configuring firewalls on Windows. So let's talk about what Windows Firewall actually is, right? And why it's able to help us protect our device. So it's a software host-based firewall that applies to the security on the host blocking, on the computer by blocking unauthorized access to its services and decreasing its exposure to potentially destructive network flows when connected to the internet. So Windows Firewall, while it can be managed using two applications, Windows Firewall and Windows Firewall with Advanced Security, Windows Defender Security Center, and Windows has additional feature compared to the previous versions. And it combines the Defender antivirus threat protection feature and basic firewall settings. So with the Windows Defender firewall with advanced security settings, it's the same as the previous version, just renamed. It includes features for creating routes with granular control of inbound and outbound traffic. And it has the connection for security routes for creating IPsec policies and network isolation. So with a few of these exercises that I'm going to do today, I'll be installing a web server and also configuring a sample website and securing the website as well. So just to understand with our first task, what is a web server, or I'm going to be installing a web server and what it does, right? So a web server is used for hosting web pages and web applications, and Windows has a web server, and that's named the Internet Information Services that we can install as a feature. And I'll be installing a web server after which I will configure a regular and secure website to be used for testing firewall rules. So now I'm connected to the VM here. So I'm just going to type in the search function for PowerShell. Okay. All right, perfect. So I'm just going to put this here. Dash there. You would think after using a computer for so long, that would type a bit faster. But okay. Perfecto. So now what we're doing, we're seeing that the installation process has started, and it may take a few minutes to complete, but I won't have you guys waiting. I'll I'll start everything back up when it completes at 100%. But in the meantime, just give a heads up as far as the next tasks. I'm going to be configuring the sample website and securing that website. And it will be created to test the hyper transfer text protocol and secure hyper transfer text protocol traffic rules in Windows Firewall, right? And I'll just do that with the bit of the administration tools and then the Internet Information Services. Looks like it's nearly done. Let's see. All right, perfect. So it has completed. So now we'll be able to, again, configure the sample website. So I went to Windows Administrative Tools in the brief intermission. I was waiting for the install Windows feature. And now I have the Internet Information Services Manager located here. So now just going to, let's see, let me select here. So I can tell it exactly what VM, where I want to go to, at least as far as the device. So now we see this, let's see, should be the server certificates here displayed. Yep, there it is. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to do here, I'm going to create I'm going to create a domain certificate. Okay, there we go. All right, perfect. Now on the create certificate window here, you'll see distinguished name properties, right? And I'm going to type in the common name box just to practice lab, plab, DC01, web certificate, right? And then I'll have practice labs. Right, and then IP, right? And I'm just gonna put London. Or you know what? My favorite city in the whole world, I'll put Chicago. Right, of course that's in Illinois. I believe that's in the US, I'm not entirely sure. All right, so now that we're on the Online Certification Authority page, just gonna hit select here and should be here. I wanted to go here. Now, as far as the friendly name, let's see, I'll just place here practice lab DC01 certificate just so be clean here. Make sure I spell it correctly. Hit finish. All right, perfect. Now it may take a little while to complete the issuing of the certificate. Oh, no, that was pretty quick. All right, perfect. So now in the window that we have here, the dialog window for the services manager, I'm going to expand sites. So it's already expanded. Then I'm going to click on default website here and I'm going to go to edit bindings. If I can find it here. There it is. All right, perfect. So now that we have site bindings here, got the hypertext transfer protocol here. Now on the dialog box here, the default port is 80 for the HTTP service, which is also pretty much www. Just because we know this is a well-known port, we're just going to click close here because it's the default port for www normally. So now just going to click add. Let's see. Actually, no. So I should have clicked instead of closing it out. All right, perfect. So now just clicking add, and then I'm going to change this to the hypertext transfer protocol secure, right? And I'm also going to, let's see, click here and see which one, web certificate, there we go. Okay. Now the site bindings dialog box here now it displays the 2 port numbers that we wanted for web services and secure web services here. And now the self-signed SSL certificate that was generated is now assigned to the website, which ensures secure encrypted communication to the website. Now in the production environment, a third-party SSL certificate would be used as a self-signed server certificate that is not secure, right? All right, perfect. So I'm just gonna hit close here and I'm gonna minimize this particular window. Now, as far as continuing the overall arch theme of the video is configuring firewalls on Windows, right? Now we're going to manage inbound and outbound rules. So similar to other firewall products, Windows Firewall, it supports the creation of rules for both inbound and outbound network traffic to protect the computer from unnecessary exposure from the internet and the internal network. Now, inbound firewall rules are enabled by default on a Windows computer. And when creating either inbound or outbound rules, Windows Firewall uses network profiles that provide flexibility when a computer is connected to different types of network, right? So these profiles usually are domain, private, and public networks, right? So a domain profile appears when, or applies rather, when a computer is a member of an Active Directory domain. And this type of profile assumes that we're connected to a devices in a trusted network. So a private profile applies when a computer is connected to a home or a small office network usually. And when a computer is not a member of an Active Directory domain, this is the default profile that's used. So the public profile is applicable when a Windows computer is connected to a public network, such as the internet. So public networks are usually found in common areas like airport lounges and malls, meaning that they're generally not secure, which is why I and probably a lot of most IT professionals would also say to make sure you're using a VPN if you feel as though you have to connect to that particular network for whatever reason that you have to connect to it, right? So public networks, therefore, are only a few ports that are open to protect a Windows computer from potential intruders, which the last thing we want, right? So Windows OS usually provides a services file, which is found in a certain portion of the file folder kind of a long name for it. So this file usually gives a summary of a well-known transmission control protocol or TCP and UDP ports used by Windows services, right? So we can actually use this file as a guide when creating inbound and outbound rules to protect the computer when it connects to different types of networks. So, so now what we're going to do is a few things. We're going to verify firewall rules on this VM that we have open here. We're going to test those rules. We're going to change the rule, and we're going to create an outbound rule, right? So first, we're going to verify. So we understand that Windows firewalls, they're defined to allow or block traffic on a Windows system. So now I'm going to examine the default firewall rules that are configured on this particular server for Practice Lab DC01, and to ensure that we can connect to a hypertext transfer protocol at a secure HTTP service from another computer. Just going to do a few steps here. So just going to open network and internet settings here. It'll find it for me. Let's see. There it is. All right, perfect. All right. And it should be, let's see, Windows Firewall. There it is. I should probably maximize so I can see more of the screen. All right, allow an app through Firewall. Perfect. Now we'll notice that there are 3 network profiles that I mentioned earlier as far as domain, private, and public, right? So these network profiles allow the user to set different settings for when they're connected to the network. And the domain network profiles use to configure the settings for domain joined computers on a corporate network, and a private network, it's configured by a user who uses the computer at home, someone who works remotely, and will configure these settings accordingly. Lastly, the public network, which is usually the most open, when a user connects to a public network, for example, an open Wi-Fi connection at an airport, which probably sees the most traffic out of most places, right? It's the most secure to prevent unauthorized users from gaining access to sensitive data over public internet connection. So just going to keep this window open here. Let's see. This here. All right, perfect. So I have the allow apps to communicate through Windows Defender Firewall dialog box located here, finally populated for me. So now we're just going to test the firewall rules. So we've created, usually when you create one or more firewall window rules, we should test them, right? So this can be done by using the PowerShell CMD let name test -net connection to verify and enforce firewall rules. So we're going to test it out on this server. So to do that, just going to do this here. Just going to connect to another server here. Actually, let me make sure my settings are correct. Number World Wide Web here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I like the way that looks. All right, perfect. Just a moment. All right, perfect. So I was able to finally log in here. Get this PowerShell going. Do what we need to do. And I'll put in the test connection that I just mentioned here. So we'll be doing test.net connection. Okay, I can't spell apparently. Perfect. All right, computer name. Have all my things capitalized here. ECO1 port 80, which is the first port that we saw. I'm going to test it here. Yep, there it is. Waiting for the response. Now, we will also want to note that by executing this particular command, right, when it tests port 80, if the port is open on the remote computer, in this case, Practice Lab DC01, port 80 is used for unencrypted web traffic across internal and external networks, right? So it uses the HTTP protocol. So now that we've seen it has succeeded, right, for specifically port 80, that means two things. not only did it succeed, but that the command was successfully executed, right? That's what we wanted. Explain that a successful connection was established to our remote computer for port 80. So now we're going to test the other port that I created that earlier, port 440. Now I'm not going to type everything over again. I'm going to do what every good tech professional should do and just do that. And we're going to retest it. And of course, it shows us true again. Now, by again executing this, similar concept, right? So it's open on a remote computer. It's used for encrypted web traffic across external and internal network, and uses the HTTPS protocol, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, secure. And our connection was successful. Now I'm just going to keep this open here while we move on to our next task, which will be changing a firewall rule. So let's see. So I'm going to head back to our DC01 server, and the allowed apps is still open, which is what we want. And we're going to clear all the check boxes. Let's see for HTTPS. I can find it here. There it is. And then we're going to clear all the check boxes for HTTP. Okay. Sure. Confusing. All right, perfect. All right, so just going to keep that window, all of these windows open that I have written. I'm going to connect back to the practice windows. PowerShell is still open, so now we're going to retest these ports. We tested before, starting with port 80. Okay, shouldn't take long. And it should show refuse, so it'll look a little different than our last test. Okay. Yep, that's what we thought, right? Now we're going to test 443. Should give us the same result. And again, all of this is just a test, right? So this is what we want. We just want to make sure everything is working properly. So it should indicate false since we checked everything for any sort of open connections, right? So now once this is finished and we get a false response, we're going to use the test connection command to test the connection to other common TCP ports like HTTP, SMB, RDP, and Windows RM. And we're going to do SMB with this particular command. Let's see if it lets me. All right, perfect. So we have, yep. There we go. All right, so it's going to change it here. Okay, perfect. Yep, there we go. And yep, so we got succeeded, which is what we wanted. So now I'm going to close that out. Everything's working properly so far. So now for our next task, we're going to create an outbound rule. Right. So an outbound rule, it just filters the traffic from the local system to the network. Right. So for example, when we create an outbound rule on the current server that we have now, the Windows 101, and we're going to test the TCP connectivity with port 445, which is for the SMB protocol, which is used to create files and file shares on the network. So so now I'm just going to open the Windows Firewall for this server. See, Windows Defender, there we go. Perfect, and then advanced settings here. This should give us, let's see, outbound rules. Then I'm gonna right click here, new rule. Then select ports, and then hit next here. I think I might want to do TCP, and then I'm going to do 445. Our specific port, and we want to block the connection. Perfect. All right, they're all selected. Perfect. All right, now we're just going to do a block just so we can understand we have a clear name for it. Now we'll notice that here we see that a new outbound rule with the name that we just created, block dash 445, is now created. So just going to close this really quickly, right? And then I'm going to open the PowerShell here. I can spell it. All right, perfect. So we're going to use what we did last time and do it again. And we'll wait for the reply. Okay, now it's going to give us a warning message, right? TCP connected failed, right? This means that the outbound rule blocking port 445 is enforced for our current server that we have now with Windows 101. I'm just going to keep this window open for PowerShell. Then I'm going to go back to here, then advanced settings, right? And then now that's finally loaded, get back to the outbound rules. Then I'm going to disable this rule here. Then we're going to test it out again. So now it's set to no as far as being enabled under that column. So then we're just going to verify that it has been disabled, right? I'm going to go back here, test it out again. Should give us a true. That's what we want to see. Everything is working properly. Perfect, 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 perfect. Now, so what we've successfully done is made sure that we were able to test the connection for this particular task, right? So now that we were able to create an outbound rule and we were able to verify that the outbound rule worked properly with blocking port 445, right? So now what we're going to do is move along to our next exercise, which is going to be managing Windows Firewall logging. So the firewall supports a logging feature that describes how firewall processes different types of traffic. So the collected logs, they provide information like date, time, source, destination IP address, port numbers and protocols, so many things, right? So the firewall login is useful for verifying newly added firewall rules that work properly. So to troubleshoot them, if the rules do not work as expected, the logs can assist in identifying unusual activity, such as repeated failed attempts to access the firewall or an internal computer. So similarly, suspicious and repetitive outbound connections coming from an internal server, like web servers, could be an indication that a intruder is using your system to hack into corporate networks, right? So we'll note that, we also want to note that firewalls logs are not fully detailed, unfortunately, and do not provide conclusive information needed to track down the external source activity. So what we're going to do a few things as far as managing the Windows Firewall features, right? We're going to install an FTP server. We're going to configure a sample FTP site. We're going to test FTP port connectivity. We're also going to configure firewall logging. We're also going to capture network traffic with the Wireshark, and we're going to interpret Windows Firewall logs as well. So a few things, nothing too simple though, that we can't do. So first, what we're going to do is the installing of the FTP server. So so then when we configure the FTP site that will be monitored using Wireshark, we understand that the file transfer protocol server is used to transfer and share files across the network, which is not a secure protocol, as all communication sent across the network is in clear text and can be easily intercepted by unauthorized users by, all different types of attack men in the middle and other types of attacks that data can be intercepted. So we're going to reconnect back to the practice lab DC01. I'm going to go back to our PowerShell here, right? So then we're going to, let's see, instead of the web server, we're going to do FTP. Let's see here. I don't believe I need this. Let me read that, make sure it's correctly. All right, there we go. Looks good. All right, so it should be started install. There we go. All right, perfect. Shouldn't take too long, at least for you guys, because I'll spare you guys the wait here. All right, perfect. So it has a successful install, which is what we wanted. Now that allows us to move on to our next task, which is configuring a sample FTP file transfer protocol site. So after we install now that we've installed the FTP server on a Windows system, we'll need to configure an FTP site for users to connect. So the site mainly used for downloading and uploading files. So we'll create a sample site. So we're already connected to the server we like. So let's go here. Pretty simple to pretty similar to the last task where we did something similar where we created a sample site. So we have the IIS manager here, and then we're going to expand this here. Then we're going to see sites. I'll just cut here, and I'll just add up to the site here. And then we'll do, again, similar practice labs, FTP, right? And then the physical path will do something like this. FTP root. Wait, that looks about right. Let's see. Yep, that's good. That's good. All right, perfect. So now for the binding portion, I want to do no SSL, right? Perfect. Then I'll assign port 21. Then we're going to hit next here just to make sure everything is good. So now in the authentication information dialog box, we want to make sure that we are anonymous as far as the authentication. We're going to access here to do all users. So we just want to make things as simple as possible. I'm going to enable both read and write, and then we're going to hit finish. All right. So now the FTP site that we've just created now shows for our IIS manager. All right, so I'm just going to minimize this now that we've taken care of that. I'm just going to open up the File Explorer here. Then we're going to go to this PC. Should be in local. Let's see, there we go. We have the folder. Perfect. So now I'm just going to hit new text document. And let's see, FTP test. All right, make sure I'm in the right folder. Yeah, okay, we're good to go there. All right, so let's double click that, and then we're gonna put this is a test file for FTP server. All right, perfect. I'll close and save here. Perfect. All right, so let me close this out. And now we're just going to right click to restart. Actually, let me start here. Because normally we want to restart it because it'll address an issue in FTP where remote connection to the service kind of times out. So we'll do that here. All right, so I successfully restarted the server here. I'm just going to let that load in. And then now that we've set it up, the FTP site on the server, we're going to test the FTP port connectivity. So we're going to use this Windows OS to verify the connectivity to a remote FTP service that's running on this particular server. Now to test the port connectivity, we're going to do that on another server, which is Windows 101. And then we already have the PowerShell open here. Change that. All right, perfect. Now I'm just going to test it this way here. Port 21. All right. Just waiting for the response. Perfect. That was super quick. So of course it indicated that the connection to the FTP server can be established from this particular server that we're on. And that allows us to move on to our next task, which is to configure, again, firewall logging. So if we want to log the activities on the FTP server or any other application, right, we want to configure logging in on Windows Firewall. So by enabling firewall logging, it actually, our network activity will be recorded in a log file. So this log file can be reviewed if the user suspects there is unauthorized access to the specific FTP server, or to review the users that have access to the FTP server. So now I'm just going to enable firewall logging on the 3 network profiles that we mentioned: domain, public, and private, right? So just going to reconnect back to our DC01 server. And then we're going to get to Windows Security. Firewall and network protection. All right, perfect. Advanced settings here. Should be, I hate that it does that. There it is. All right, perfect. Now for our overview, should be the Windows Defender Firewall properties. Let's see. There it is. Oh, click here too. All right, perfect. let's see. Actually, let me go back here. Yeah, so it'll give us the properties for all three profiles, right? So now we're just going to start with changing the inbound collections to allow, right? And then the logging section to customize. Now, when we customize here, we're going to change, or sorry, let me take a step back. So on the settings page here, we're going to access the log drop package, and we're going to change that to yes, right? And then the drop down list for successful connections, we're going to change that to yes as well. All right, then we're going to hit OK. Now, by enabling the log drop packets option, the log file will record all the packets that have been dropped when a successful connection to the FTP server has been established, right? And this can verify the stability, I was going to say usability, the stability of the connection to ensure that the files are being shared and available to users. The log successful connections will log all the users that have connected to the server, and this can be used to ensure that only authorized users have access to the FTP server, right? So now we're just going to click apply here, right? Perfect. Now I'm just going to click on the private, and we're just going to pretty much keep going down the line of tabs here to change our settings, and then we're just going to change this to allow, right? Then customize, and then I'm going to hit this to yes. Well, you don't have to. I'm just going to do it anyway. So let's see. Actually, here. Oh, actually, no, that was the wrong one. Here, I don't need notification because I went to settings instead of logging. Now we want this to be yes. Yes. We want OK. Right, and then allow. Then we do the same thing with public, pretty much. Let's see. Apply first. Then the public. Then we could allow. Perfect. Yes. Yes. Apply. Wait. Then apply. Perfect. So we've pretty much done done all the necessary settings, right, to set up everything here. So now what we're going to do is just close out this window actually, and let's see. I'll actually close this out too. I'm just trying to see what I need here. So now what we're going to do is capture the network traffic with Wireshark. Now for this, we'll be listening to network traffic using Wireshark, which is a tool can be used for packet sniffing and looking at traffic data, right? Just going back and forth between whatever application or networks that you're using. We're going to examine data packets that's captured during the network transmission. So in essence, Wireshark is a capturing utility that's used to capture traffic that travels through the network over specific interfaces. It can be used to monitor network traffic and identify legitimate traffic. However, it can be also used by unauthorized users to capture network traffic using malactors. Capture network traffic to gain access to network resources for malicious activity. So we're just going to open up the Wireshark tool here. All right, perfecto. Now it's going to show, it's going to be showing the detected network interface, which is the internet, right? And then usually Wireshark needs to use a specific network interface to capture the network traffic that travels through it. So in this case, the practice lab has only one network interface allocated to it. So in a production environment, servers may have more than one network interface allocated. So the correct interface needs to be selected depending on the network traffic that needs to be captured. So we'll just start capturing packets here. Let me actually open this up for like my, there we go. Capturing packets now. Now we can see all the application data that's showing for us here. Acknowledge. And then just going to clear the screen. Actually, no. Before I continue here, I'm actually going to reconnect back to the Windows 101 server. I'm just going to here. right? FTP, perfect. Now we're just going to enter a few more commands now that we're in the FTP prompt. We're going to do some running some tests on checking on the other server, the DCL1. So lab DCL1, enter. Now by executing this, the open command for this, oh, sorry. I didn't tell it what to do. I just told it what I wanted. Perfect. There we go. So by executing this command, connection to the FTP server hosted on the other server, the DCL1, is now established. So now I'm just going to use the username anonymous. I can spell it. All right. And then for the password prompt, just going to now this is normal that you can't see it even though I'm clearly typing. Now, when entering the password, usually it's going to appear blank, and this is just to protect the user's password from being displayed, right? So as you can see, clearly logged in successfully. Then on the next prompt, just going to do that here, right? And then, then I'm going to allow access to our file transfer program, right? So now after that ls command is executed, the contents of the FTP root folder is now displayed, right? And all of the files that are available are now shown, right? So now I'm just going to tell it to get the text document I created, right? The FTP test. Right? See. So it's supposed to execute the get command, right, which downloads the file that was created on DCL1 from that particular text. Let's see. Go back here. There it is. Why is it? It's go back here. All right, not sure what happened with the command for the getting the text file that we created for the DCL1 server, but nonetheless, we're going to keep it moving, and just going to stop the capturing package here for the Wireshark, right? And then just going to type in FTP here. Then it should give us something that I typed here. Read this. There it is. All right, perfect. So the FTP data packets are displayed in Wireshark, of course, as I mentioned earlier. So we've examined the first packet. If I can, I think it's already scrolled up. Yeah. So we examined the first packet that indicates a successful connection to Microsoft FTP service, right, and move on to the other packet that documents the connections, right? So the command successful, anonymous access allowed, and things of that nature. All right, so now if we look at the data packet with the description in the info column, we'll see request, let's see where it is. There it is, perfect. Request pass read, well, short for password, read this on Wireshark, which is what I typed into the PowerShell for the server here. So since the FTP transmits data in clear text, the password entered by the anonymous user that which is me, is readable. So I'm just gonna close this out since we've already examined this here. We can quit without saving. Now we just want to note that the Wireshark application was used to capture network traffic from this server, the Windows 101, and the FTP traffic that was captured was in clear text. This is typically a vulnerability that can be exploited on the network by malicious users. And to prevent this, a more secure way usually should be used for file transfers, for example, using SSH. But that'll be another video as far as SSH specifically. So next, we're going to interpret Windows Firewall logs, right? So after we collect the Windows Firewall logs, we should be able to interpret them. So by interpreting the log files, the network activity that occurred through the firewall can be viewed, and this activity may include successful connections made to the FTP server on the current one that we're on, the DCO1, which ports were used and which users connected to the specific server. Right now, we're just going to examine the collected firewall logs. So just going to, okay, I already have it open. And then just going to click here. It should be log files. Let's see, Windows, there it is. Log files. Actually, let me just click here. Should maybe logs. Usually shows log files, but I guess it's just logs here. That's fine. All right, perfect. So now I'm just going to open up the text document that we have here. Just a moment. All right, perfect. So I was able to locate the text documents. I was in the wrong folder prior because it's a bit different than the last time I went through this, but nonetheless, we'll move forward. So we're going to open up the P firewall text document, and we'll notice that the firewall log lists information about other type of traffic captured by its network interface here. All of this here. Now we're going to look for 21. So we're going to be looking for that particular firewall here. All right, perfect. So I've located the what we're looking for. Just did a bit of examining for the P firewall log for the 21 because it's the TCP port number for the FTP services, right? So now that I've examined the file a bit, just going to close this out, and I successfully assisted with interpreting the Windows firewall logs here for at least this exercise. So now, just going to move forward to now managing static packet filters, right? So with static packet filtering controls access to a network by analyzing inbound and outbound data packets, right? So either by letting them pass or by stopping them based on the IP address of the source and destination network. So this is actually a basic firewall feature that provides the network packet filtering based only on data packet information. So administrator defined rules that allow or block traffic, right? So Windows Server, it supports the static packet filtering included in the routing and remote access services. So what we're going to do here is a few things. Install routing and remote access service and configuring RRAS on a Windows server, creating a static rule and testing ICMP connectivity, right? So we're going to get started on the server that we're currently on with first installing routing and remote access service. So the routing and remote access service in Windows Server allows us to configure a server that remote users can connect to. So we can either configure it as a VPN server or a remote access server. So we can also configure it to filter static packets, right? So we're just going to, again, install the routing and remote access service. And to start, we're going to start with PowerShell, right? So now to install the VPN and the routing, just going to type in, let's see, we're going to do direct access still. Let's see. So, don't know how to spell, apparently. VPN, routing, right? Then we want to do include management tools. Oh, dang it. I saw it as soon as I hit enter. Should have double checked. There we go. All right, perfect. So, now we see that the install is in progress, and now once it's successfully installed, I'm going to exit out of PowerShell and move on to the next task, which is configuring the RRAS on a Windows server. Perfect. So we've finally completed the install, and now for the installation of the remote and routing access for the server, we need to configure it for use. All right. So without the configuration, it's a service that won't be activated. Right. It can't be used if it's not activated. So in this task, we're just going to set up a configuration, a custom configuration for the RRAS or the RRAS, however you like to say it. So we're just going to head to the server manager here. Right, wait for it to load. Just want to hide this, and then we're going to click here. All right, and then and now we'll notice that the status indicates that the RRAS feature installation is completed with the post-deployment configurations pending. Right, so now to continue this, or to complete it rather, we're going to be opening beginning wizard, getting started wizard link that we have here, and then it's going to have the configure remote access, and we're just going to deploy the VPN only. Right, that's what we're wanting. Now that we have the routing and remote access console displayed, we're going to see on the left here the server that we have that we want to do the configuring for. All right, it indicates that the server is currently not configured for this. So to configure it, we're going to connect the node. I'm sorry, connect the node. We're going to right-click our node, and then we're going to configure and enable the remote and routing access. Right. So now on the setup page, I'm just going to make sure that now that we can configure, that we select the custom configuration option here, and then LAN routing, local area network routing. If it, let's click, there it is. All right, perfect. All right, now we're just going to finish it out with the LAN, and of course we want the service to start so it can be activated to be used. All right, and now we wait. All right, perfect. So I'm just going to actually keep this open, just minimize it just a little. I could actually exit that out. Now, for our next task, now that we've done that, we're going to create a static rule. So after setting up the custom configuration for the the remote and routing access, we're going to create the static rule that will block inbound and outbound ICMP packets, which is Internet Control Message Protocol, which is used to connect. Let me slow down, to test connectivity to remote machines across the network. So it sends network packets to the remote machine, and then the remote machine will respond by sending packets back to the machine. Now, by blocking ICMP traffic or on a server, it will prevent a denial of service attack on the specific server. Now, a DOS attack is when a malicious user sends a flood of network traffic to a specific server, causing the server to not be able to respond to legitimate requests from other machines on the network. So on this server that we have here, we still have the dialog box open. So we're just going to expand the IPv4 and the protocol version 4. I'm going to click on general here. Then let me actually open this up so I can see everything. Then we're going to right click Ethernet and go to properties. All right, and then we're going to go to inbound filters. All right, then new. We want everything new, and then for our, let's see, P, then a protocol. There we go. Then a type 8, then ZITL. Right. Perfect. So now that we've done that, we see that the inbound filter shows us here the different filter actions that'll take place for the filters. We want to verify here to receive all packets except that those that meet the criteria that we have down here. So that's good to go. So we're going to click OK, and then since we're back on the Ethernet properties, we're going to make sure we do the outbound filters. New, of course, similar concept, right? So, and then ZITL, right? Okay, perfect. All right, and then apply, then okay, which automatically closes it. So we just also want to note that after setting up the routing and remote access service, right, the rule was created to block all incoming and outgoing ICMP packets. And the packets are used to, again, connectivity to a specific computer or host on the network. So these packets will be blocked to prevent specific network attacks on the network. Again, a DOS attack, right? So now we're going to test the ICMP connectivity. So after configuring the filters on the routing and remote access server, we need to test them. Because in the previous task, we configured the ICMP filters, and this one will test the connectivity after setting it up for the inbound and the outbound filters that we've just done here in this property. So now we're going to go ahead to this lab. Now we're back at PowerShell, which is actually good. So we're going to test it through PowerShell. If it lets me see. I think we have what we need. Make sure it's spelled correctly. Yep. All right. Now, since it's blocked in the output filters, we won't get a response when it pings a remote host. Right. Yep, there it is. It timed out, failed the status. Pings exceeded false, so it didn't go through because our testing of the ICMP connectivity, it worked as far as the changes that we made on the DC01 server with everything being blocked here. So we are officially good to go. And in this long video, thank you so much if you're still here. We've completed a few things. We've prepared Windows Firewall. We managed the inbound and outbound rules. Windows Firewall logging, manage static packet filters, and we're able to now install a web server, configure a sample website, and secure the site, as well as verify firewall rules, test them, changing them, creating outbound rules, installing FTP servers, configuring a sample site, testing the connectivity, firewall logging, capturing network traffic with Wireshark, installing routing and remote access service, and creating static rules, and also testing the ICMP connectivity as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one for cybersecurity fundamentals. Oh, I got it.